So today we thought of going through the rules that have been notified in the month of August 2023, because as we were taking some sessions recently, we saw that the rules have not been there awareness campaigns been done on the rules this time. Though the rules have made they have significant impact on the kind of litigations that have been fought, because whatever the changes that have been made, they are mainly based on the recent jurisprudence that is happening, the litigations that have been fought in the bar and the by the bar and the bench. So the first rule that I'm going to share is about rule 108, which is saying that like what the issue was. The issue was that your vehicle has been intercepted by the authorities, by the authorities at the different checkpoints who are checking the utility of the other documents, and it was intercepted. So you got an order, MOV 9, and you want to, you have paid the penalty, the penalty you have to pay, maybe whatever the reason. And to a certain extent, the thing is that you assure the time of filing of the making the payment that you don't have to make the payment of the penalty. But due to certain pressures from different quarters, or the client was not interested, at that time to hold on to the goods, they wanted to get the goods released, they got the penalty paid and got the now fast to maybe 2 months or so. Yeah. So sorry. So the thing is that though, as I was sharing, that e-way bill order was issued in the month of uh, July, and suddenly you're close to 3 months of ending, and you remember that you have to file this appeal, and the client comes to you and says they file the appeal, but then you suddenly realize you don't have the credentials of the temporary ID and the password. So what do? You are staying in a different state. Maybe the vehicle was intercepted in the state of West Bengal, and your office is based out of, say, maybe Uttar Pradesh. So you don't have the infrastructure maybe to come to West Bengal or connect somebody in West Bengal and get the officer's detail, get the user ID and password. So till now, what was happening? We were filing manual appeals in different before different appellate authorities, and the manual appeals were being rejected. What was the ground? The ground was that we cannot accept any manual appeal after this date, because it has been notified that all appeals have to be on the electronic appeal. To go against this, there were many there were many writs being filed in the different high courts, and the different high courts have given different judgments. Some of the high courts have said yes, since the user ID password which is required for filing of the appeal is not available, the RTP has the right to file a manual appeal. And in some of the judgments, it was told that no, it was when a structure is given, when it is laid down in the rules that you have to file a online appeal, why you have to file an online appeal. To give relief to this, there has been a change now. The change is that the filing of manual appeal can be allowed by the commissioner. Okay, can be allowed by the learned commissioner, subject to the restrictions that he may put in for filing of manual appeals. And where so with this, there are two reliefs that as taxpayers we are getting. One is in this e-way bill matters that we are getting the manual relief for manual appeals, because even if I don't have the user ID and password, I can file the manual appeal, and I may get relief for that. And in the meantime, if I can get hold on the you know user ID and password, maybe I can file a secondary appeal online. But that would not be necessary, because in many states I am told it would be made compulsory that okay, for e-way bill, you can file manual appeal. The second issue that we are facing is that I have got the DRC 01, I have got the summary of the order, but the order is not uploaded. The order is somehow not uploaded on the portal. Okay. And or the DRC 07, it is not being reflected properly when I'm going to file that. In 3 to 4 cases, it has happened with me that the DRC 07 and the summary is given to me through the mail, but when I'm going to file the appeal, they are saying that this number does not exist. So, what was the fate till now? We had to run behind from pillar to post to the officer, to the proper officer, saying that, sir, please give me the DRC 07. upload it on the portal so that I can file the appeal. And there was humongous time that was going on this. And so we are going to the High Court. And the High Courts have said, okay, from the date the DRC-07 is uploaded on the portal, the limitation period will start. In Honorable Mumbai High Court has said that, when the DST is affixed to the order, then only the limitation period will start, even if the order is more than 1 year or 1.5 years old. So to overcome all these issues also, maybe the learned commissioners, they can allow in this particular technical glitches, because in one of the matters that I was handling, it was a purely a technical glitch, because the proper officer, he also tried his best. He wrote to many, the internal help desk and all to get this thing rectified, but somehow the DRC-07 was not reflecting on the. So in this situations also now, you don't have to move, before the proper officer for getting the DRC-07 uploaded. What you can directly do is you can just tell the proper officer, sorry, you can, just file maybe a mail or a letter to the proper officer saying that you have not got the copy of the order to be uploaded on the portal. And so, so what can we do on that? So that is one issue that we can see. And then after doing that, we can always, file the manual appeal before the commissioner. So that is a welcome amendment that is coming. Second is about Route 109, which in the same benefit is given to the department also for the appeal by the revenue. Now coming to Rule 138F, which is about the e-way bill. Since this is larger rule, maybe I'll take this after, yeah. So 138F is about the transfer or the movement of valuables like gold and precious stone. So what is the rule? First, we have to remember that it's only for intrastate movement. So for interstate movement, no e-way bill is required. Okay, for even for precious diamonds and precious metals and diamonds. So next thing is, it's the value. Only if the value is more than 2 lakhs, then only the e-way bill has to be issued. And here, the commissioner of the state tax, in consultation with the principal state of the central tax, they will define, okay, with the requirements and the limitations of the e-way bill. And the e-way bill has to be issued for all the three reasons that we get now also, like in relation to supply, for reasons other than supply, and also if you are having an inward supply from an unregistered person. So maybe I am buying some metal from a unregistered person, which is the value is more than 2 lakhs. Okay. So in that case also, the requirement of e-way bill will be there in relation to Rule 108/38/14. So when do we have to? There are now few doubts and concerns by the industry, as we have also represented from our association in West Bengal, that this is a huge matter of concern that people will be knowing, that the movement is happening. So that is a risk factor. So we have to increase our insurance and all those things are there. But to that, initially, which was been told, now the final outcome is that only part A has to be made. Part B is not to be given. So when is the part A to be filled in? It has to be filled in before commencement of the movement, as with any other e-way bill. And once we fill the part A of the e-way bill, the same will be auto-populated to our GSTR 1 also. Okay. So that is one area wherein, a new change will be coming in. It's up to us to take up that thing, because in case we feel that we don't need to show it in outward supplies for that particular month, or there is some other issue, we can make the changes. But one important thing is that the e-way bill that will be issued, the data in this case from part A will also be auto-populated with your GSTR 1. Now, friends, what is happening in this auto-population? I'm already defending two so-called notices. One is where my client is a customs house agent. So he happens to get clearances for the client from the port. And from the port to the client destination, they are sending this material, right? So what the transporter did by mistake is that he mentioned the name of the customs house agent as the person who's sending the goods. Okay. So because of that, my client gets a notice saying that you have affected this movement of goods because your name is mentioned in the e-way bill. Okay. So the auto population of GSTR or UA bill into GSTR 1, that needs to be checked by us on a regular basis to check whether that is, in effect, a supply that is being made by us. If not, then accordingly we need to do the necessary reconciliation on a month-to-month basis. So the next question that was asked is, so part B is not required at all. The next question that was asked is if the movement is happening through some e-commerce operator, okay, or a courier agency, so who will issue the e-way bill in this case? So in this case, it has been notified that the e-commerce operator or the courier, they can also prepare part A of the e-way bill. Okay. And another important thing about cancellation of the e-way bill, which is a major concern of the trade, they have said that e-way bill can be cancelled in two situations. One, the movement has been cancelled. Somehow you don't want to make the movement of the precious metals or things. Secondly, the cancellation has to be done within 24 hours of generation of the e-way bill. Okay. So this is again a very important thing because as we know, many of us may be facing the e-way bill reconciliation matters from that we are getting from DGARM data. So they are asking questions, why did you cancel this EA bill after 8 days, 9 days, though the movement was supposed to take place only within 2 days. So I think now they have put it in the rules itself that, that within 24 hours you have to cancel. So if you're not doing it, that means there is a violation of the rules. Okay, another important thing regarding cancellation that we need to remember, which is but obvious, but still they have mentioned in the rules, so I thought of discussing, that is, you cannot cancel an EVA bill for gold or precious metal only if the verification of the e-way bill has already happened. What do you mean by verification? Now, in many states, there is a RFID verification. That is, as the vehicle is passing, okay, with that particular e-way bill, there is a data tag that is happening. So, if at any part of the interception, the interception has happened, or through RFID, the vehicle has been tracked to have moved that from that particular part, or that e-way bill has been, tracked to have moved from that particular checkpost. So it will be considered to be verified. So once the movement has happened and it has been verified, the e-way bill cannot be cancelled. Lastly, no e-way bill will be required for transport from the customs area, airport, land customs station to the ICD, inland container depot or the container freight station, and vice versa, from the inland container depot to the customs port and all. This is obvious, but this exemption of no e-way bill when there is a movement from customs, airport, land customs station to ICD or CFS, and container freight station, is available only when you are moving it under customs bond, under customs supervision or customs seal. So if it is not under customs supervision or customs seal, you're doing it on your own, then e-way bill will be required. Coming to the value will be as per section 15 that we are determining, which is there in the invoice, bill of supply or the delivery challan. With that, we have to add the TGST and SGST, or TGST and UTGST, whatever. So both these taxes have to be added to the value for determining the quantum of 2 lakhs. And what can we deduct? We can deduct the exempt supply that is mentioned in the invoice if the invoice contains taxable supply along with it. So with this, I will hand on the baton to Arpit ji, who will now take some of the rules forward. Then after a certain break, again, I'll take up some further. Okay. I'll take up the questions at the end. I'll have an answer to that. Just take up the questions at the end. So, Arpit, over to you.
Thank you, Aruchi. So, what we, myself and Aruchi, decided to have the session taken by both of us and partly distributing the rules which have been changed through the recent amendment. And Aruchi, kindly enable the sharing of screen. Aruchi,
Arpit, one second, I'll just do it. 1 minute. Aviram Dixit ji, you have been made the host because I had left for network issue. So can you please make me host again?
Just one.
One. Aviram Dixit ji.
Hello.
Sir, I have made you the host.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, क्या हुआ Arpit ji, I also left no because of network issue इसलिए. Thank you.
Yes. So starting with the first amendment which has been made in Rule 9. So this was the amendment made in Rule 9, and the relevant provision after the amendment in Rule 9 is this is a provision wherein the amendment has been made. Now, what used to happen that in all these three cases where verification of Aadhaar was not possible, or who has undergone Aadhaar, but his name is appearing in DigiGram risk parameters, or the proper officer has taken the approval from commissioner. There was a physical verification which used to be done within 30 days of submission of application. Now, at the time of that physical verification, the presence of the assessee was required. But now what has been done is that they have removed the condition of presence of the assessee while the physical verification is being done. Now, this is a very significant amendment, because if the presence of the assessee would not be there, the officer would be going straight away. He would be observing the business place as per the information available with him. And if he would not, if he would not be finding the place, he would be making an adverse report. And on the basis of the adverse report, the assessee would be put to the notice. Now, this was a signal. There was a High Court judgment as well, wherein the High Court has specifically said that since the presence of the assessee was not there at the time of physical verification, therefore the entire exercise of cancellation of registration, rejection of registration, what was the case before the High Court, was held to be invalid. Now, what they have done is that they have removed this condition, and the physical verification can now be conducted, not although the assessee is not there. In my opinion, this would be a huge hamper, would be creating huge issues with the businesses wherein new registrations are being applied and physical verification is being conducted. The second provision which has been changed is regarding Rule 10A. Now, in Rule 10A, there was a requirement to furnish the bank account details within 45 days from the date on which the registration has been done. Now, Rule 10A has been modified, and the amended Rule 10A. Now, this is the amended Rule 10A, which provides that the bank account has to be updated within a period of 30 days from the date of grant of registration, or before furnishing of GSTR1, whichever is earlier. Now, they would be bringing in a facility wherein the person, if he is not updated the bank account details within 30 days from the date of grant of registration, he would not be allowed to file his GSTR1 and pass on the credit, as the case may be. So now they have linked this in this furnishing of bank details with the filing of GSTR1, although the facility is not there yet to block the filing of GSTR1, but sooner or later GSTN would be bringing in this facility wherein filing of GSTR1 would not be allowed if the bank account details are not furnished within 30 days from the date of grant of registration. Now, the third is regarding 21(2)(a). Now, 21(2)(a) was regarding the suspension of the registration, wherein there was a mismatch between outward supplies declared in GSTR1 vis-a-vis the tax paid in GSTR3B. Now that 21(2)(a) has been amended to provide that if there is a contravention of provisions of Rule 10A, the registration can be suspended by the proper officer until the details have been furnished. So, furnishing of bank account details somewhere down the line is becoming a very important aspect in view of the lawmakers, wherein they are even going to the extent of suspension of registration if there is a contravention of provisions of Rule 10A. Once there's an amendment in second proviso to rule sub rule 4, wherein it is said that once the bank details have been furnished as per the requirement in rule 10A, and if the registration has been suspended, the same would be revoked upon furnishing of the bank details under rule 10A. Now rule 23. Now this is a significant amendment in rule 23. Now, this is an amendment in Rule 23, wherein which provided for revocation of cancellation of registration. Now, this amendment would be applicable from 1st of October 2023. This is for cancellation of registration. Now, previously, with the period which was maximum up to 90 days. Now, the proviso has been inserted, which provided the period of revocation of application, filing of application for revocation of cancellation of registration may be extended by commissioner and officer authorized in this behalf, not below the rank of additional commissioner or joint commissioner for a further period not exceeding 180 days. So this is an amendment which would be effective from 1st of October 2023. Now the time period which was initially 30 days, now it has also been extended for within a period of 90 days from the date of service of order of cancellation of registration. So two major amendments have been made with effect from 1st of October 2023. Now the question comes, and supposedly a registration has been cancelled, say prior to 1st of October 2023. Now, whether this amended time limit, extended time limit of 90 days or 180 days would be applicable to the cancelled registration as well, which has been cancelled prior to 1st of October 2023, or it would be governed by the conditions which existed as on that date, and only the cancellations which have been effected post 2023 would be governed by the new condition. In my opinion, the date on which the cancellation has been made, that date determines the right which the assessee has. Now, if the assessee had only 30 days at the time of at the date when the cancellation was made, therefore, in that case, that period would only be applicable. But if the cancellation is made after 1st of October 2023, then in such case, the amended provisions which are effective from 1st of October 2023 would be applicable. Now, in case of Rule 25, now this Rule 25 has been amended, and it has been amended to provide that in case of a physical verification which was required to be conducted, and herein also the requirement for the presence of the registered person at the time of conduct of physical verification has been done away with, and now once a physical verification is being conducted, the presence of the assessee is no longer required. Coming to one last insertion which has been made in Rule 88D. Now, this is something which would be affecting to all the assessees. Now, this is a rule wherein I would like to have the participation, because all the rules which were earlier discussed were procedural rules, and somewhere down the line they would not be affecting as much, and the consequences would be very limited in some cases. But in Rule 88D, there is a huge implication on all the assessees who are filing their return and having a mismatch of GSTR 3B and 2B. Now, the first question which comes into my mind, that what is the enabling provision for Rule 88D under the statute, which provides that a notice can be issued for a difference between a 3B and a 2B, credit between 3B and 2B. Yes, demand can be, or proceedings can be initiated under section 73-74. But prior to that, which rule allows which provision in the statute allows the department to issue notice and provide a mechanism to deal with the differences which are arising between a 3B and a 2B. If any views are there.
Is it not section 16, subsection 4, sir, which, I mean, even the constitutional validity has been confirmed yesterday that it is a valid section. So in the section itself, they have given a provision that the tax must be paid by the supplier per se, whereby the recipient can take the input tax credit. Will it not run from that particular section of validity of input tax credit?
I'm not challenging the merit part of issuing the notice. I am only speaking about the procedure part of the issuing of the notice. That wherein they are stating the manner of dealing of difference. See, Rule 88D, Sub-Rule 1 says where the amount of ITC availed by a registered person in the return for a tax period furnished by M3B exceeds the ITC available to such person in accordance with auto-generated statement in 2B in respect of the said tax period or period, as the case may be, such amount and such percentage as may be recommended by that amount of percentage is yet to be recommended. The said person shall be intimated of such difference in Part A of Form DRC 1C electronically on the portal, and copy of such intimation shall be sent. Now, the part what I am trying to discuss is that which enabling provision in the statute allows them to issue a DRC 1C, because these are not assessment proceedings. Assessment proceedings would be separately conducted under section 73-74. See, what are the provisions wherein a department can seek an information? For section 61, they have to have the measure of discrepancy. And if section 61 was sufficient enough, then there was no requirement to create a rule 88D, because section 61 procedure is there separately in rule 100. 62 is an assessment of assessment in case of non-file of return. 63 assessment in case of unregistered person. 64 exceptional circumstances registration assessment. 65 is audit. 66 is audit by cost and works accountant or chartered accountant. 67 is inspection. In 77 and 71 is access to business premises. In section 151 is seeking information with the permission of the Joint Commission of any higher authority. In my opinion, this rule 88D at best can come from section 164, because independently there is no provision in the statute which allows them to have DRC 1C for this issue.
But 16(2) AA is also there, no, sir.
This is again a process. This is again on merits. What I am trying to see what the process what they are seeking is, we will issue DRC 1C. Either you pay the required amount, or you explain the difference within 7 days. And if you do not explain if you do not pay the requisite amount, or your reply is not treated correct, or you are not able to furnish a reply, then we will initiate a proceeding under section 73 or 74. So this process of arriving at 73-74, the enabling provision to issue DRC 1C, that is what I am trying to say, that where is the enabling provision in GST Act to seek information. See, in my opinion, why Rule 88D has been inserted with such a process? There is no provision in the statute which allows the officer to seek information from the assessee other than under section 61 or 60, other than the section 61, 66, 67, 65 or 70 or 71. But these are these provisions have their own domain. There is no provision in GST, unlike Income Tax Act, where in case of scrutiny, the officer requires certain documents, then on the basis of study of those documents, the officer then issues a show cause notice under section 143. So yes, Soumyaji.
Yeah, but if you see section 164, sub-rule 4 says that the contravention for which is only 10,000 rupees of penalty. So there is no such provision that you can proceed with 73 or 74. Correct?
No. See, Section 164 allows them to bring in a rule to carry out the provisions of the Act. Similar to what was held in case of Rule 117 of transitional credit, wherein the Act did not allow to prescribe the time limit. Honorable Madras High Court said that since Section 164 is there, so they can provide the time limit to carry out the provisions of the Act, although the section was then retrospectively amended. But prior to such retrospective amendment, the Madras High Court decision in what I believe in case of PR money, it was there which held prescription of time limit by Rule 117 to be valid. So in my opinion, Rule 88D, for Rule 88D, as such, there is no provision in GST. It can only take support of Section 164, wherein they said that we have bring in this procedure to carry out the provisions of the Act. At present, the officers in GST are treating somewhere down the line treating their hands to be held back, as they cannot freely seek information which they used to do under VAT, because there is no provision in GST which allows them to send a letter and then ask for information. Because the basic foundation of GST is that it is a self-assessed regime, and the officer can only give a notice provided he has certain reliable information that some self-assessment has not been done correctly. But in Rule 88D, the government is somewhere down the line allowing them to just issue a letter in DRC 1C, although they themselves are not clear that whether such excess is correct or not. They are only issuing this DRC 1C on the basis of assumptions and presumptions. And once they receive the entire information, then they are convinced that there is a violation, then they would be going into 73, 74. So 88D is somewhere down the line going beyond the basic structure of the statute, wherein freely information cannot be sought from the assessee, but this rule is allowing them to do so. This is my personal opinion. Regarding the process, I am not highlighting the merit part, regarding the process only.
Yes. Arpit sir, when we read section 164 subsection 1, it says that the government may, on the recommendation of the council, by notification, make rules for carrying out the provisions of this act. So rules can only be introduced for the purpose of carrying out the provisions of this act. So I don't think so that there is any provision for which the rules are, there is no provision for which this particular rule can be made into the picture, right? Because the rule should be there for carrying out the provisions of this act. So there is no enabling provision for carrying this particular purpose.
I am 100% with you, Vivek. What I am trying to just put in for the discussion is what is coming from the government.
Yes.
Today government they are bringing in the rule. They are just bringing in the rule on the basis of section 164. In my opinion, for many of the rules, there is no enabling provision.
Yes.
Arpit, may I give a counter view?
Yes, I'm just sharing my view that, if 164 can be taken in that perspective, then, there is no purpose of, using the phrase for the purpose of, that the manner can be prescribed, the time can be prescribed like this, right?
Definitely. Yes, Gurji.
So, may I give a counter view?
Yes, definitely. Counter view.
Section 73(5) and 74(5), where the phrase is used as intimated by the officer, payment can be made by DRC 03 by the taxpayer. That was the basis of introduction of DRC 01A. This one also flows from the same, in my view.
Sir, if I go to 73(5).
So there was it was only from the taxpayers and professionals that there was a hue and cry that why the intimation from the department is not there, my rights are being violated, especially in 74. section 74 reference because the penalty was not, the opportunity of getting a reduced penalty was not there. That was precisely the reason why DRC 01A was introduced. Though DRC 01A is entirely about that section, but this one is also about ITC, maybe extra availed in reference to section 16, etc. So this is an intimation by the officer, prior intimation before issuing the SCL.
See, section 73(5) says that he has to be intimated of the tax as ascertained by the proper officer. So when I go through this amendment in the rule, the last part says where any amount specified intimation remains to be paid within the period specified in said sub-rule. Now, this is a provision wherein they are providing a 7 days where no explanation or reason is furnished by registrar in default. The said amount shall be liable to be demanded in accordance with the provision of section 73, 74 as the case may be. Now, this 73, 74, when they have introduced this 88C, this is not coming from Rule 142, and it is said that it would be liable to be demanded in accordance with the provision of 73 or 74. They are not saying that in accordance with 73 1 or 73, because once DRC 1C is finished, in my opinion, they would have to again go to 73.5. It would not be that 73.5 can be skipped up. Except for if we treat DRC 1A as not mandatory.
Akhil sir,
Yes.
if you could please allow me to share a screen and
Yes, yes.
so that I can share my view on that view which sir has shared with us.
Arupji, if you can make Vivekji co-host.
Good, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Sir, as you have mentioned that could this be the basis as per section 73 subsection 5? Though my view may not be easily acceptable, but what I think is that it says that on the basis of his own ascertainment of such tax or the tax as ascertained by the proper officer. I am going little longer because section 73 subsection 1 says, because this 88D is in context of input tax. Okay. When I read section 73 subsection 1, okay, 73 subsection 5 is using word such tax or the tax as ascertained. When I read 73.1, it says where it appears to the proper officer that any tax has not been paid or shortly paid. Okay. And then it says or where ITC has been wrongly availed or utilized. Right. So the word tax and the word input tax credit, both are used different separately. Okay. And now, just for the reference purpose, when I read section 132, this 132 says, for the purpose of this section, the term tax shall include the amount of tax only for this purpose. For the purpose of this section, that is 132. Tax shall include the amount of tax evaded or the amount of ITC wrongly availed. So only for the purpose of 132, tax shall include ITC. But here, this particular explanation or this particular way of defining, way of giving the definition of tax is not given in section 73 or 74. So in my view, tax should not include ITC. Of course, this way of interpretation will make you use hue and cry for the purpose of interpretation, but only for the limited purpose of this discussion. I am having a view that this tax should not include ITC, and if the tax does not include ITC, 73, 75, 73.5 or 74.5 cannot be linked with section 80 rule 88B.
Sir, Vivek sir, this interpretation would be very welcome. And then all the DRC 01A which are regarding the ITC violations, they are not valid. So it will be very welcome interpretation for the taxpayers. If they welcome the DRC 01A.
I am using this for the purpose of few of the litigations, right now.
Gurjiji, what I would like to add is that to the query you have raised, Section 73(5) does not allow the assessee to respond, does not make a requirement that once they have furnished 1A and reply has been furnished, then there has to be a counter reply or an order. See, 1C refers to Section 73, 74 independently. So 1C, after 1C, there would be 73(5) again, in my opinion, and then there would be a proceeding under Section 73(1).
Sir, this was just a counter view, like I said, to give some food for thought. There are other
yeah,
differences
definitely.
also.
See,
So
Because
that only
73
evolves. Sir,
73
counter view
5
always
says-
evolves the things. Right, sir? So
73(5) says it has to be issued by the proper officer, and this Rule 88 D is about the form being issued electronically, generated by the system itself and issued. So there, we go into details. There will be a lot of points where we will be able to
Yes,
not agree that it is not in consonance with that. This was just a view, just to say that 73(5) read with 164 and all the violations, etc. It is an intimation being given for the purposes of the act also, like Vivek sir is saying. So there also that it is for the implementation of the act, that the person, any taxpayer does not avail any ITC which he is not rightfully allowed. That is also implementation of the act. So 73(5) read with 1. So let's, rather than just focusing on 164, giving it a wider definition. And RPG, I agree with you that even this 88D notice will follow up with a DRC 01A. I agree with that also totally.
now one more
Sir, I
thing.
have a simple, sorry to interfere. I have a simple thing to, not a very basic thing. See, you already have a DRC 1A intimation, which gives an opportunity for the SSE to substantiate his or her position regarding why tax is less paid or why input tax credit has not been given. So why there has to be a specific DRC 1C which talks about only the difference, because it's already all inclusive in DRC 1A. What is the purpose of the government having a separate intimation for only for input tax purposes difference, like DRC 0 Rule 88D with the DRC 01C and the 13B difference for DRC 01B? Already an intimation is already there. It covers Rule 73, 74. Everything is covered there. So why they keep on adding DRCs and DRC intimations pre-show cause notices?
Ma'am, the purpose is only administrative, to have the system generated, to make use of the IT technology and to have a quicker tax realization. And that has to be done within the parameters of the law. And RPG has invoked our thoughts whether this particular is within that, within the parameters of the law. The primary thing is the act only. That is what he is pointing out. We are just having discussions on that. But the primary purpose is that all the IT information and technology, using those mechanisms to quicken the tax realizations, that's the only purpose of all these system generated forms, DRC 01C, DRC 01D, B, all that is only, the purpose is only this.
Gurjiji, because the question which ma'am asked, and one more reason which I could arrive at from the question of ma'am, that why DRC 1C has been incorporated and why not DRC 1A could have been used. In my opinion, if we go through the language of Rule 88D1, it only says where the amount of ITC availed by a registered person is in excess of ITC available in 2B. It is nowhere stating that the ITC which you have availed in 3B is the ITC wrongly availed or utilized. For issuing a DRC 1A, there has to be an allegation that you have wrongly availed or utilized the ITC. But in this case, 88D1 is not making any allegation about wrongful availment. It is only saying that it is a simple letter wherein they say that your ITC claimed in 3B is more than 2B. We are not saying that you are incorrect. But when DRC 1A is being issued, there is a specific requirement that it has to be a wrongful availment of ITC or wrongful utilization. So therefore, the department is going one step back and not making an allegation regarding wrongful availment. They are only stating that you have wrongly availed the not wrongly, you have availed ITC more than reflected in 2B. So therefore, in my opinion, that should be one more reason of prescribing 1C than directly going into 1A.
Yeah, Bridget, that's what I was going to share only, that there was a demand from the trade that, why are you saying that there is an allegation that I have not paid the ITC, I have excess availed the ITC and all, without giving me an opportunity to explain. Because see, a mismatch in 3B versus 1, like 1B, as ma'am was sharing, why DRC 01B, why DRC 0. See, 1B is specific to my issues in 1 versus 3B. So maybe there was a clerical mistake that I've made. Maybe, some payment of last year I've now adjusted. So there are so many things that are there which can be explained to the proper officer. Similarly, if you see the framework of DRC 01C, it's wonderfully given, whether it's because of some import credit that you have taken, which is not there in 2B, whether it's because of some 3B, whether it is because of some ITC which you have not availed earlier, but you have availed in 3B. So actually, the taxpayers, from the trade, we were complaining about one thing, that is, why are you coming to me after 3 years and telling me in my ASMT 10 that, this mismatch. So now department is saying that, okay, I'm telling you within a very short time, so that your interest liability is also less. In case you can't explain and you've made a genuine mistake, you pay the amount and your interest liability is also less. So the three grounds, which are there, like one is which Gurjit sir has said, administratively it is easier, taking use of AI. Second thing which Arpit has also shared, that, it's not a allegation that there has been a shortfall in payment of tax or that you have availed excess ITC. Rather, it's an intimation saying that this is what has happened. You give an explanation to ascertain whether tax is payable at all or not. And thirdly, the thing is that by doing this, we are narrowing down the gap between detection of the issue and, the payment for the same, because there are many genuine issues also where mistake has happened. So in that case, the interest element, that will go down heavily. So these are the advantages of this particular.
But Aruji, in my opinion, government is going away from the self-assessment aspect and going into the each and nitty-gritties of the form. See, I take an example of income tax act. There are 7 crore taxpayers. They file their return and in every column they put some figure. Income tax department never comes for figure put in each and every column and ask me for the information. They believe that the taxpayer is doing correctly. If out of 7 crore taxpayers, 3 crore are claiming ATC reduction, they are not seeking information of LIC receipts and the housing loan repayment. But what is happening in GST, that they started with self-assessment. Now they are moving away from self-assessment and seeking each and every information that one has filed in each and every column. See, this is not self-assessment. If they want to do it, then let's bring a provision for carrying out 100% scrutiny of all the returns. Now, what is happening recently in Rajasthan? What they have issued is that since you have filed column 10, 11, 12, 13 in GST and 9, so I am required to prove that this much amount of liability has been paid through 3B of next year if the amount has been shown. Yes, certain scrupulous elements might misuse those columns, but again, this is a section which is built upon section. This is a statute which is built upon section 59. Either the mechanism should be so robust that they are able to identify the persons who are doing it incorrectly. Putting all of them in the same basket is somewhere in last 6 years, section 59 has reduced its importance due to the action of the revenue. This is what I would like to add for Rule 88 D, which has been made.
So the steps are becoming, I mean, as Arupji rightly said, that it is at some point of time it is beneficial to the SSC because the interest liability is coming down, because there is only a time frame of 7 days for replying to DRC 1C. So hypothetically, assuming I get a DRC 1C today, that there is a difference of difference between the input claimed in 3B and is in 2A. For all practical purposes, I don't go into my portal and view additional notice and orders. Only all these DRCs come technically. So within 7 days, I don't even look at the portal because the dashboard doesn't show anything. So I lose the opportunity of explaining in DRC 1C. Then the officer is supposed to issue me a DRC 1A. Then he will go to DRC. Is that the process, sir?
Yes.
Is this the way in which it is going to be handled here and afterwards? Is my question.
Yes, ma'am. In my opinion, this should be the process. And one more thing I would like to add is that slowly they are moving from the service of the notice on the portal also. Now this DRC, once he said that along with the portal, the intimation shall also be sent on email address. Now, all those decisions of the High Court, which said that the service of the notice on email address is valid, although the rule provides for service of the notice on the common portal only. Now, what they are doing is they are specifically putting that along with the common portal, the notice or this intimation has to be sent on email address. Now, this is not the only section they have put in this communication on email address in other provisions also where an amendment has been made. So this is one more significant diversion which is taking place from the original law now that once not only on the portal but on the email address the delivery are also to be made.
But sir, this was already a part of the process. Whenever any notice was issued, an SMS and email intimation was already there. Only
Sir,
difference
this is
is
a
that it is
separate-
getting written now.
Sir, this is when I receive an email or a SMS, this only says that the portal notice has been uploaded. This says a copy of intimation has also been sent to the email address.
And moreover, sir, since 169 was prescribing either any of the
Yes.
modes for communication, so in many cases, in many states also, the email was not being sent. We are getting an SMS maybe that the DRC01A has been uploaded by this number. Check the DRC, but we didn't get any email. And to answer Renuka ma'am's thing, I'll give you. I know though it's not about GST law, but what I've instructed all my clients is to do. When you enter the office in the morning, do your morning puja and aarti, whatever you do. After that, go to the portal and check the additional notices and demands. So that is what they
Exactly.
do.
The
have
same
to
thing
do
we have
that.
done it in
See,
our office also, sir.
because I filed a writ recently before the Calcutta High Court, and the best part is it's a large corporate. Okay, I'll not name, but it's a large corporate, and they have missed filing a reply to ASNT 10 to DRC01A, and DRC01 we had only 3 days to reply. Okay, and so we could not reply properly, and accordingly the order was there. But the issue is that then
Sir, but
now
that
what
also will not be required, sir, these days. Sir, actually now you can't even file your next month return if you don't reply.
yeah, no, that is there, but I'm
So
saying for DRC
checking
for
daily also
DRC01A,
is not required. Once you're
no, like about 7 days you are saying no, or maybe about
yeah,
now
DRC01A, yes.
Yeah, the ASNT 10 notices, the DRC01A, they have been given it in a very short time because 18, 19 is going to get time barred. So in this case, once the time is going, then, your chances of replying to that goes on. And even DRC01, we are getting 3 to 4 days because of this issue, because the client is not aware only that the notice has been issued. So there, I think it's about the hygiene of the client that needs to be set up, that we have to go and check the portals on a regular basis because this is what is there. And maybe as Arpitji has rightly shared, now taking the cognizance of the different judgments of the Honorable High Courts, maybe now the authorities will make it stringent that email also has to be sent along with uploading on the portal.
Arunji, what I would like to highlight is that in case of RDG 31, that is suspension. The rule says the notice has to be served on the common portal or by sending a communication. So here they have used the word or. But when we go to rule 88D, here they have said that on the common portal and a copy of it.
And yes.
So they are differentiating it also that either you can send on the email or the common portal, and at one place both on the common portal and the intimation. So there is an intentional use of and or.
And
Actually,
yeah, that's coming. Yeah,
actually,
Gaurav ji.
Aruji, I have a point here.
Yeah.
I recently sent in a query on a group that when we are replying to this ASMT 10's DRC1A and DRC1, the portal is actually not showing up the reply file, though we are getting the response in ASMT 11 or in Part B or in DRC 6. The same is not getting populated. We're already getting reminders that you're not filed reply. So if the 7 days things kicks in, we'll be ruined, sir, if that is the way it's going to happen. There's an issue with the portal and the queries are going unanswered. Reply file, we have a DRC. We have a DRC. We have sent it manually to the office. But still we are getting reminders online.
Sir, I entirely agree with you because we had a case where one
And many of our
ASMT
friends have
10.
confirmed in Jharkhand and in other states in CGST, SGST. Same thing is happening.
Sir, in Tamil Nadu, it is happening like that. In to one case where we filed a reply for ASMT 10.
Arup sir, basically what happens is
Hello?
Yeah, it is happening here also in West Bengal also. Yeah, Renuka ma'am, yeah.
And sir, what happens is like when they say that the reply is not filed on portal, none of the and generally there is no respite other than High Court. So for technical issues like this, if people end up going to the High Court, where will the dealer or the practitioners land up, sir?
Sir, in my case, can I speak?
Yes, sir.
So in the similar case happened here where we filed an ASMT 11 against the ASMT 10 for a clerical error which had happened, and the officer agreed, and they did not pass ASMT 12. They did not pass the order, and the second officer again issued the same ASMT 10 asking us why there is no reply. When we gave the reply, he said it is not appearing in the portal at all. So we had downloaded a copy of the PDF with the reference numbers, and we had to show that and get our orders done. We had to personally go. So the question of online reply, faceless, nothing works, sir, as far as these type of ASMT 10, 11 replies are concerned.
And sir, to add to madam's point, she might be able to go to
Yeah.
the officer because he'll be locally available. But when we are dealing with clients spread across the country, it may not be possible for us to physically go and show him the reply at times.
Sir, this is where our practice is improving, sir. When I have a client who works in your place, I can as well call you and tell you, please represent the case.
But ma'am, the period is that, as Arupji said, after doing your morning prayers, you have to see the portal. People don't even get the time to see that. When would you contact? When would I contact you or Arupji to do the needful? That is again within the short period of 7 days would be practically impossible.
Precisely.
Sir, I know a good friend of mine who has developed a functionality who resides in Ahmedabad. You do not have to, do that exercise after having puja, which you mentioned, because this is a very big pain. Okay. So he has developed a functionality where from, he can get the updates of all the registered persons on a single click, whether there is any development in context of any notices, etc., from department side on the portal.
So Vivek, you are suggesting it's a software, like, right?
Yes.
So can you is it possible
I
to
am
give a
not
reference
just-
of that thing?
I am-
Because
I
I am
am-
from Ahmedabad. I'll be happy to go and meet him personally and
Yes,
get this thing from him.
yes.
Oh,
I-
Gaurav is from Ahmedabad.
So,
Sir, I'll
but
get it
just I am-
personally and I'll post it here with this permission that everybody can take a benefit of it, sir.
yes, with due
Whether
respect,
charge or
sir,
not,
I'm
I'll
not
check with you.
suggesting, but just I am, having this particular information with me.
Sir,
that
sir, with the number of things that we handle, it is apparent that we get such a thing, which is, if it is already developed by one of our colleagues, it always
Yes.
makes sense to at least showcase here. Then it's a choice to buy it or not buy it.
Farajji, there is one functionality in Computex also, which we are using, wherein all the clients can be selected and a process can be run, wherein the software downloads all the notices and highlights that which are the SSC wherein new notices have been arrived on portal. This we are doing on a regular basis on a time differential of 10 to 15 days.
Okay, what process we have followed is whenever somebody logs into the portal for filing 1 or 3B, and again on 30th, there's a 3 days we have put in that just keep on checking everything new is appearing or not. We are doing this for last 2 years now.
Yes. So there are certain queries regarding Rule 88.
Arpit, just one request that the entire impact of 88D, kindly highlight that Rule 59 change also, that GSTR1 will also not allowed to be filed. So that will complete the impact. It is not only that the proceedings can be initiated under this thing. If the reply is not given, even GSTR1 will not be filed.
This is a change in Rule 59.6, wherein they have said that a registered person to whom an intimation has been issued on common portal under Rule 88D1 in respect of that shall not be allowed to furnish the details of outward supplies in Section 37 GSTR1 or using invoice furnishing facility unless he has either paid the amount equal to ITC or has furnished a reply explaining the reason in excess of ITC that still remains to be paid as required under Rule 88D2. So this is again Rule 88D2 wherein they have mandated that first we have to clarify the aspect that why you have wrongly why you have availed an ITC in excess of what was showing in 2B. Now what they have done is that GSTR1 would not be allowed to be filed if the reply is not filed. What it says is furnish the reply explaining the reasons in respect of amount of excess ITC that remains to be paid. Whether that reply is accepted or not, the issue is that the reply has to be furnished. What you have furnished, how you have what you have furnished is whether it is acceptable to officer or not. This is a thing which is not covered by this, but it mandates that the reply has to be filed. Now what happens is that supposedly the reply is not filed and the officer initiates the action under Section 73-74. Whether still my GSTR1 would be allowed to would be blocked from filing. This is another thing which has to be seen, that how they implement this specific provision on the portal. Now, so on a whole, when I see Rule 88D, in my opinion, this is something which is going beyond the realms of recovery. Because recovery is under Section 73-74, at least you should give time to the assessee to reply. And even if he is not replied, create a demand, but you cannot stop him from filing GSTR1, or you cannot say that you have committed a default because you have not filed a reply. And merely by not filing a reply, it should never be tantamounted that proceeding under Section 73-74 that I have wrongly availed the ITC. It is only on the issue of show cause notice under DRC 01 where I am duty bound to reply, because 1C and 1A are not something which are resulting into an order being passed. This is a discretionary power being given to the officer, wherein just because there is an excess ITC in 3B vis-a-vis 2B, he is being made subjected to the assessee is being made subjected to the officer. Again, something for the trade to represent, but overall this rule is going beyond the provisions which are provided in GST. Although they might somewhere benefit the assessee who have incorrectly filled the figure, but again, in case of self-assessment, it is the responsibility of the assessee to correct the mistakes which he have made, because he is the officer of himself in case of self-assessment. So with this, I would like to conclude, because these were the specific rules which are with me, not allotted to me, with me, and rest of the rules. There would be a second session on these rules also, because some of the rules could not be discussed. Would not be able to discuss.
RPG, I think there are only 2 to 3 rules that we need to cover. So I'll just quickly cover it, maybe 5-10 minutes, because see, one rule which is coming is 142B. That's in similarity with what is happening in 88D, right? So here, what was happening is that there was a difference between GSTR1 and 3B. There was a difference in outward liabilities. I could not explain the liabilities. So as per Section 75-12, it was said that it's assessed tax, so there will be direct recovery. So what was happening? Suddenly, the RTP's bank account was being attached, saying that there is this mismatch, we can make direct recovery, so we will do the direct attachment. So now, in the rules, they have made a provision so that an intimation can go to the assessee. So first is DRC 01B, which is for outward tax difference between 1 and 3B. So if we can file the reply for the mismatch, why the mismatch is there, then in that case, the matter gets resolved there. In case someone fails to file a reply to DRC 01B as per Rule 88C, then in that case, an intimation will be sent under Rule 142B, saying that this amount is to be demanded from you as there is a mismatch under Rule 88C, which you could not explain. So if you can file an explanation within 7 days, the matter will be resolved. If you cannot file a reply within 7 days, then it will be uploaded in your electronic liability register, and the recovery will be made as per the rules of recovery. So again, this is something in line with the benefit that has been given in 88D also, that there is one more process, because for this attachment that were happening, like in Odisha, there was a client of mine whose account was attached just like that for the sake of non-payment of interest. Okay, it was said there is assessed tax up to dena hi padega, and without an intimation, the client had the money, if they have been told, maybe they could have paid the interest also. So in order to stop that, only this rule 142B has come in, so that we don't go to the High Court just for the simple reason, they're saying that without intimation, the account has been attached or, recovery actions have been taken. So now you get further 7 days to file a reply, or at least you're made aware that, this thing is going to happen. So I think this is one of the major
One thing I
changes.
would like to add is
Yeah.
regarding Rule 142B. There was a recent decision from Madras High Court wherein this specific question was asked that whether the interest which is liable to be paid under return can be automatically recovered under 75.
Yeah.
Previously in Jharkhand High Court, there was a decision wherein they said that
Right.
Section 73 has to be invoked. Now Madras High Court had said that Section 7512 can directly be invoked.
Yeah.
And for the part of self-assessed interest, the contention which came from the department is that now in 3B, we are reflecting the amount of interest to be paid. So therefore, once we are reflecting in 3B, it is part of self-assessed, and if the taxpayer is not paying, they are entitled to recover in 7512. And Madras High Court, although not going on to that submission, upheld the recovery under Section 7512 for interest also.
Yeah, so that is a major challenge that we are facing. That you're saying that you have already shown that this amount is payable as per you. In your GST or 3B or the one, or the interest is payable. So why can't we recover? So the High Court, they were taking different views. So I think 142B just, put that process into place, and we are given an opportunity that, okay, you get 7 days to give a reply or to make the payment. So if you make the payment, no further recovery will happen. Because one more problem with the government contractors that we are facing is, if any recovery action has been taken against the government contractor, right, they have to mention this in their tender documents. So for that, they're getting negative marking. Paisa shayad bahut kam hai. Matlab, suppose the interest is around 7 lakhs, 6 lakhs, aisa hai. But in the tender, they have to mention that, yes, there was a recovery action in, as per the law. So that is, again, a challenge which is happening. Apart from this, as Arpit just shared, some of the rules are left out, like about GST 9 and 9C. I think about that we can take in some separate session on 9 and 9C. And apart from that, for compounding, they have made certain changes wherein they have said that, okay, in some offenses, it will be 75% will be the minimum amount, maximum amount payable. In some of the offenses, they've said up to 25%, if you pay, then the offense can be compounded. Because what was happening is, in compounding, it was being taken on a pick and choose basis as per the officer who was, allowing the compounding. So that has been more or less rationalized, that this is a floor and this is a ceiling within which you can allow the compounding to happen. Apart from this, one more important thing that has happened is that regarding the consent, I found it very, I not use the word funny, but I found it really a huge challenge. They are saying that I will give the consent. I am the supplier. I'll give the consent that you can share all my recipients' data, okay, and the different sharing platforms wherever they can share as per Section 153. But once I give the consent, it's a deeming provision that the consent has been taken by me from all my recipients. So now suppose I have 100 recipients, okay, for us, like the chartered accountants or the advocates, we have maybe 100 clients, okay, to whom we are billing. Say the chartered accountant, we are billing 100 clients. So once I give the consent, it means the clients, they are also giving the consent, deemingly that that the data, that their billing data can be shared, as in how much amount I have billed. So is it not something which is being again put on the taxpayer, that you have to take consent from each of the 100 suppliers? So again, 100 recipients. So again, we need to see whether how far this is practicable, and with the kind of data protection bill that is coming in. So how does it merge with that? And also the third factor, which is important, is that will it not give, leakage of information? Say I am handling a large corporate for whom I handle in about 7 states, the entire litigation. So will not the government be in a position to know from my billing pattern the kind of litigation the client is facing in different quarters? So will that information not become, public? So that is something, which is to be thought about. And lastly,
Arupji, sorry for disturbing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My apologies for disturbing.
No, sir.
I'm just sharing the context for this consent is that the account aggregators, the NBFC, etc., which have been termed as account aggregators,
right,
which will be providing finances, etc. So if any businessman or any GST taxpayer wants the financing from those account aggregators using their GST information, that is the purpose. That is the context of this rule. So just adding that input. Okay.
No, yeah, I agree, sir. So that is the context. But what is happening is, The
Your
taxpayers, they,
concerns are right regarding
Yeah.
the recipient's information. I'm just placing that in the context for the benefit
yeah,
of
no,
all.
I
that
think,
it
yeah,
is
this
only
is
regarding
important. Yeah, this is important because this is something which will help the trade in terms of getting the funding and the finances, I think. So that is important so that they can be aware. But that is one of the concerns. And finally, last is one, the amendment that has been made for the OIDAR. Previously, they used to give a data, consolidated data of all the GST, the registered taxpayers to whom they are making the supplies. Because the registered taxpayers, they are supposed to make the payment on their own. So now, the OIDARs, they have to give the data of the GSTN data also of the recipients. So what is in effect happening is, if I am taking some supply from some OIDAR and by mistake I have not paid, the taxes under RCM, so now it will populate into my 2B. And so once it populates into my 2B, my liability for RCM, which is always there, that is now clearly known to the department. So now what I'm seeing is that, department is also trying to streamline the RCM avenues from where the tax can be collected. And so this is one of the avenues that I could see is, giving the GSTN data that is making it, easier. Okay, so I think with this, we have started. There was one question regarding how the verification will happen if Part B is not given in the e-way bill. So one part to that is, as far as I am aware, the RFID tagging is also done. So as soon as the e-way bill, that unique number is crossing, the vehicle is crossing. So the tagging is happening and the officers, because in many situations we have seen, even without interception of the vehicle, the officers are aware that that particular vehicle has crossed that particular area. So through that, or if some verification has been has happened by interception, so that will be also considered for verification from the point of view of cancellation of the e-way bill. Because one of the conditions of non-cancellation of e-way bill is that if the verification of the e-way bill has happened, after that we cannot cancel. So these are two modes, I think, through which the verification will happen. Gurji sir, do you want to add to this about the verification part?
Oruvji, again, just to add,
Yeah.
nothing specific to the verification part, but I'm just giving a general remark that I'm really glad that we have the Constitution of India between the taxpayers and the department. I'm really happy about that. Because seeing these rules, 88C and 88D, so on and so forth, and really certain provisions like invoking the recovery proceedings directly under Section 79, under Rule 88C, and the time limit of 7 days to reply, which is actually not a reasonable opportunity as per Article 14. So seeing aside all these provisions, I'm really happy about the Constitution being there between us. And I really cannot wait, really. I'm just waiting with bated breath. But I really get an opportunity to challenge all these provisions before the High Court. So that's about my concluding remarks.
Yeah, that's true. Luckily, we have the Constitution, because of which we can file the writs at least.
I had one point, small point, if you allow me.
Yeah.
So with the kind of amendment that the department is carrying out on the portal in terms of bringing in so many things like filing this unclaimed credit card detail and everything, and so many other amendments, DRC 1C, 1D, and everything that they're getting in. Would it not be better that at least prospectively they bring back this symphony of 1, 2, and 3 so that major hassles on the taxpayer side can be given away? Because now it is all reactive. Then it could be all from our department, from the RTP side only, details will be available online. And I don't know. I mean, it will be bad on my part to comment, but I mean, is GSTN getting money for every amendment and therefore this has been happening? I don't know. It normally happens on SAP that every amendment that you get into, you are being paid for every customization that happens on the portal or on your SAP. At least I know that much. And sir, so many notices, so many issues can be resolved if at least prospectively they go back to 1, 2, 3. I don't know whether all will agree on that.
But Gaurav, if you see to this 1, 2, 3, when the new forms had come in December 2019, we had done some 4th December, 6th December. There is a huge testing of new forms as told by the different commissionerate. So I was in one of the two of the commissionerates on that day on the testing was done. Most of the taxpayers, they are saying, ye nahi karna hai. How should I mark? कि कौन सा मेरा इनवॉइस एलिजिबल है, इनएलिजिबल है, वो कैसे करेंगे? So
सर
I
बट
don't
अभी
think.
क्या हो रहा है सर, अभी 2B आने के बाद में लाइक
हाँ.
वो ब्लाइंडली ले रहे हैं. See what is
हाँ.
happening, something is getting 2B. अब पहले से क्या था, एटलीस्ट a dealer had an opportunity to mark in or mark out.
Right.
अभी it is blind.
Blind.
For example, अभी वो एक अपना 88D discuss, we are discussing 88D. When you see if there's a difference, explain within 7 days, or you can't file your GSTR1, or your account will be getting blocked. Now things
Right.
are happening on automatic mode. One-way traffic is coming in rather than a two-way traffic, which was earlier available to us.
Yeah, that is true. I think, yeah, but yeah, then the trade has to represent on this. ये चाहिए, then this will be the advantages. When maybe then, you know, things can happen.
Sir, so
Because
many
see, if-
unnecessary notice can be avoided if things happen the way they were initially planned. I don't say exactly the same forms need to be brought in. Whatever learnings we have over the past 6 years can be incorporated, and progressively we can think that maybe from a set date, which ideally should be 1st April for any year, they can at least prospectively bring in 1, 2, 3 ka symphony. And so I'm specifically pointing this towards you because you have access to those people who might lend an ear to our community.
No, yeah. See, trade has to go. See, I'll tell you frankly, our main challenge is that we have to first convince the trade. देखिए, बच्चा किसका है, trade का है, problem किसका है, trade का है, but समझाना किसको पड़ता है, हम लोगों को समझाना. We have to explain to them that, you know, this is your problem.
And so when we explain, we have already bought the brand. The department came up, 9C mein you don't need certification, and it was all put on us that we are charging an FT fee.
Yes. So that is the issue. So Ajay, so just to as we have a time, yeah, good
Arup
sir.
sir,
Yeah.
coming specifically back to the point you were referring about the e-way bills verification.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So you had left it there for with a query. Sir, I'd
Yeah.
like to understand a little bit there. You were talking about the RFID. What is happening on the field? I think what you are saying, I may not be entirely aware. If you can kindly explain that, give that situation, then maybe I'll be able to add something to it.
So there is this radio frequency identification device,
Yeah.
which is also known as RF. So the code that the e-way bill code that is there, that is being tracked with the RFID instrument. So the officers are aware that this particular vehicle with this particular e-way bill has crossed my location at this particular time.
So is that has already been implemented? That
Yeah. That is,
RFID contains the e-way bill
data.
number.
Yeah.
It contains, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because how are we knowing about it is that in some of the situations we are finding, suppose a particular taxpayer, they have made a mistake in the e-way bill or some document wherein they have been intercepted. The officers in the other checkposts, they are also being intimated that this is there, and through IFID searching, they are getting that okay, this vehicle is also carrying the same thing, maybe a different vehicle, different e-way bill. So they are being also intercepted at that particular location.
Yeah. So, sir, the rule which is there about what are the documents to be carried by the person who is in charge of conveyance, that is the invoice or the challan.
Bill of supply or the
a copy of the e-way bill in physical form is required. But if it is then e-way bill in physical form is not required if that e-way bill number is already mapped to the RFID tag.
Yeah, right.
So that is not required. But
No.
I'm not sure whether the RFID, once it has been checked there, would we call that has been verification has been carried out and not. But yes, the purpose entirely is that means that e-way bill has already
Movement has started.
Movement has started, so it cannot be now cancelled. So I'll agree with your interpretation on that, sir.
So thank you, everyone. So as with every day, we would like to close the session because most of our members, they are happy with the thing that we are having this session. And it's really wonderful, I'll say, to receive your messages and encouraging us, the admins, that aap aage badho, hum log hain aapke saath. So that's really encouraging. And because of which, maybe, I and Arpit ji and Unni ji and Venu, we are constantly trying to deliver whatever we are. And it's also your presence in the meetings that also encourages us. So I think that is really wonderful. And because of which we planned this yesterday and we could actually, I woke up in the morning and then studied, and yesterday also we studied, and so we could deliver. So thanks for that, for joining in. And next week, again, we'll have on a particular section, because in between we wanted to give a break because we had spoken to a few of the speakers. They were saying that they are busy with the September deadline. So they have sought some more time. So next week, we'll again have on a section for the discussions. So thank you for joining in. And now I would request Unni ji. Yes. Uniji, your closing remarks. We could not hear you today. And your vote of thanks.
Good morning, all. It's been a nice change from reading the act to coming back to the present and changing the rules and see where the law is evolving to. So I think the main highlight for today's discussion was 88D and how it's going to make us be more agile in our access to replies and how the taxpayer is expected to have instant reconciliation whenever the department feels to have a look into our reconciliations. So I guess that this is going to also see a trend of more machine involvement and less proper officer involvement, going by how they are looking into have a system generated notices. So I guess we'll be having less invasive procedures regarding scrutiny and audit at a later stage if every month via our DRC 1A, 1B and 1B, 1C are keeping our returns in track. So I would see the amendment as something positive in spite of how harsh and draconic it may seem. For those who are into compliance and who are wishing to be in more compliant step with GST, I guess this is going to be more user friendly once we get in line with how the compliance system works. So I am one who's going to view 88D as a positive amendment and not something that to be feared, because it is going to ensure that people who are not going to comply with are already weeded out by the system itself. They'll not be allowed to file their 1, they'll not be allowed to file their 3Bs. So that system finally falls into place that we've been promised in 1, 2 and 3. So I would say this change is something that is welcome. Those who wish to challenge, yes, I understand your concerns, but if you look at it from administrative point of view and from compliance point of view, this is something that we need to actually encourage, because the fruits of the amendments that has been carried out is going to help the taxpayer in the long run, let us say in 2-3 years, where every return is going to be near perfect. So I think we should support these amendments and ensure that whatever inconsistencies are there can be suitably modified through representations, but without deleting the amendment per se. So one of these amendments we've talked about, I'm sure that the administration in its wisdom has many reasons for implementing these small changes, but it's the sum total of all these changes that is trying to make GST as easy as possible. So we should not lose sight of what is being tried to be achieved. So yeah, there will be difficulties on the way, but I guess we should all try to smoothen the process out and ensure that such kind of amendments automate the process, and instead of finding inconsistencies with the provisions, try to harmonize the provisions and ensure that these kind of notices are legal. So that's my take on these amendments.
Thank you, Niji, leaving the entire group discussion on a very positive and high note. I think that's what we can take away. That let's start with the reconciliations and hand over the non-reconciliations with the government on the changes that have come in. So thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you, Arpitji, and let's look forward to next week, same time, 9 a.m. We'll be meeting on the SMS, which is our Saturday morning session. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful weekend ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.